You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Packernet. Ryan Schlip and JJ Leahy here today, and I know everybody's talking, the rumors are swirling about how there's going to be downsizing, and there's not going to be a Christmas this year, and Toby fired Jake, and I'm just going to put that all to bed, all right? Jake, sadly, is leaving us for a rival network called DERAILED. It's going to be the show he's on because they drafted Romo Dunze. So, screw that guy. Actually, Jake is busy right now because we are doing a hostile takeover of Cheesehead TV, and Jake is our resident hacker, and so he is currently holding our Nagler's Twitter account for ransom. What are we asking for right now? $1,000?
$1,000, yeah. If they keep screwing around, we might up it a little bit.
And the reason is because we all need green screens for our live stream.
Yep.
So we were researching it, and the best green screens getting up there, a little pricey, and also Jake needs a louder microphone. And so we came in with a budget about $980. So, and our labor. That's another
Figure
thing. So
we didn't want to pay for it, so
so yeah. So what we're gonna do is we are just going to stall until Jake decides to join the live stream because he's always late. Look at the view count is going up. People are actually clicking on my clickbait. This is great. Tool for this.
What did you call it?
You,
we had Darren Nagler. That's funny. I didn't even see that.
So my display name is Dwight Tried to Kiss Me, and tool for this says, if Dwight tried to kiss you, does that mean Michael already did? Don't want to talk about it. It's a deeply emotional.
Oh boy.
Incident. All right.
We're getting pretty good at getting off the rails in the first 3 seconds here.
I'm going to give you some options for what we're going to talk about here.
Okay.
And chat, if you don't like any of these options, you know how to save yourself from this. No, not by clicking away, but by feeding us some great questions to answer. All right. So here's the options, Ryan. We can do another Photoshop product like when we did the Packernet cheese grater.
I like it.
Bell last year. That was good. We could do another one of those.
Okay.
Brambo said, "Oh, JJ being JJ again."
I don't like any options. I haven't even heard the options yet. I hate these options.
That is a very attractive looking woman in that profile picture there. I like the cut of her jib. Actually, both of our wives commented one after another.
I see that.
Yep. That's pretty cool. All right. So we have the Photoshop, a new product. We could, one thing that you and I do kind of a lot behind the scenes is working on football analytic projects we could live on the stream put together like an algorithm for projecting wins for every team in the league this year. Could do that.
Okay.
Tool for this says 2004 mock draft. I'm not doing that.
That sounds awful.
2025,
I would consider. 2004, I don't know.
So see, 2003 was like the Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning class. Who the heck was 2004? Was that like?
I don't know if that's like a notoriously terrible draft or if it's just a random number he picked.
It might be. We also could, we could go through and do a kind of crazy draft. I was kind of wanting to do this one with Jake, but we could do a draft of football things. And so there's like a roster of things that we're drafting. So it could be like something I love about being a Packers fan, something I hate about football, yada, yada. And the chat can come up with what the things are that we're drafting here. But then you got to be kind of strategic about how you draft those categories. I was kind of hoping to save that one for when we had Jake.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. We can save that one.
Here. What positions do you expect us to go heavy on? And what do we go light on for our 53-man roster? That's a deep question, Drew.
I haven't even started thinking about the 53 yet, so I couldn't really help you there. I mean, because you got your general parameters, and it's like which way do you lean in these certain ones, and I'd have to remember how many positions we usually have in each one. I can't answer it without overthinking, and I don't think anybody wants that to happen live.
Drew says, I get my dog tomorrow that the community helped fundraise for. His name is
nice.
Loki. I remember that. That was freaking awesome. I remember how excited I was when we hit that number. That we were
there you go. Yeah, that is cool. That was a long time coming, man.
Drew, tell us a little bit more about your dog, about Loki. What kind of dog do we got here?
Are there other options, or are those the two we're rocking with?
I know I had a third one. I'm trying to think what it was now.
Because I have an answer, but I'm just waiting to see if there's more. 2-year-old yellow lab. He's really outgoing. Perfect.
Well, one question I've gotten a couple times during this week that we could tackle would be the way we expect this. And I wish this is one where I wish we had Jake on here because he's, the schematic genius of the three of us. But talking about how the defensive line is going to shake out this year and where, what kind of role TJ Slayton actually has on our defensive line now. Is he kind of the odd man out? Like everybody else clearly still has a role in the 4-3 front, but does TJ Slayton? I've had that question a couple times this week.
So a couple things. Number one, very sorry, I didn't catch that. I just real quick, I'm going to interrupt you. If we could just say a prayer for Clayton and his family. They're going through some pretty serious stuff. I just got a text message from him. I don't want to give out personal details, but pretty extremely serious. So keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Also, I'm not even going to segue because that's not appropriate. But if you could repeat what you said on that last one, I apologize.
Yeah, no, definitely. Hearts go out for Clayton and his family. Hope they're doing okay. No, I got a question a couple times this week about the new 4-3 defensive line that we're putting together this year, and whether TJ Slayton still has a role in that, or if he's kind of the odd man out because he's more of like a prototypical 3-4
sure
defensive tackle. Because like everybody else who we have on the defensive line, really easy to see like where they would line up. And actually, TJ Slayton, I saw is like the only name I've seen floated as like potential trade candidate
sure
by the Packers of like, hey, not really sure how he fits in to Jeff Hafley's defense.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely my thought initially. I know the Packers did comment on that a little bit. I don't remember exactly who, if it was Hafley or what, but they said that they were fine kind of letting him be that one tech kind of a guy, that they thought he was going to have a big role. I know in OTAs he was kind of that number 2 guy, starting off with Kenny Clark. So it seems like they're going to roll with him kind of being that sort of 4-3 nose tackle, I guess you'd call it. Kind of funny that you mentioned that, because just as you were saying it, one of the things that came up, and he's probably going to be fine too, but just spinning my wheels here a little bit about guys that could potentially be trade bait because it doesn't work with the whole 4-3-3-4. We know most of the guys off the edge are going to be okay. I do wonder about Kingsley and Igbare. He might be fantastic as a down end. I don't know. But if that is a little clunky, I think there is some value there to potentially move him if need be. Now, we're a little thin there, so you don't want to do it if you don't have to. But if you have to, there might be something there. But as far as TJ Slayton, unless it's all just lip service, it sounds like the Packers are going to at least try to fit him into that role.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting one because he would be such a tweener here in terms of, I really don't want him off ball, except like I don't think he can play Sam necessarily. And is he big enough to play, and can he play with his hand in the dirt for us? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm hoping we get, have you heard anything about like media availability for OTAs this week? Because I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and I wish they would say more. Maybe the media guys don't know until last minute or something, but I never find out until like an hour before OTAs that the media guys are going to be covering it. So anyways, I'm hoping we get more than one day and can kind of start to get some information about what's going on. Not that you can take too much away from it, but it kind of helps to formulate some of these theories, even if they are kind of
right
conspiracy theories.
I'm just glancing a couple of places where I'd expect to see any announcements about that. I don't see anything about that yet.
Yeah. Well, we know Nagler's not tweeting about it. Because we hacked him, right?
By the way, where can I go buy a sweet iPad? Any Packers content creators I could buy an iPad from?
Yeah. I was just thinking that. If you guys know of any prominent Packers content creators handing out or selling for good prices, let me know.
You and I just wish that we were big enough that a hacker would actually.
I was actually thinking that. I was like,
audience.
that's one good thing about not having a really big audience, because I'm guessing that happens a lot to those guys who have, prominent audiences and whatnot.
Out of curiosity, well, if you know of like, I don't know if there's any. I don't even know what's going on with Clayton, but if they need like a fundraiser sort of thing, we could, pin that on here.
Sure. Yeah. We'll see. I'm not going to pry too much, but I just told him if he needs anything, let us know. So Clayton, if you happen to be watching, please don't hesitate to let us know what you need, and we'll take care of you.
Drew says he thinks Slayton can still be a run stuffer in short yardage. I mean, yeah, obviously, a goal line package, 4-3-3-4, who the heck cares when you're in your goal line package? But he's not playing an awful lot in that case. If that's kind of, if you're only bringing him out for short yardage, I mean, it's kind of.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't know very much about 4-3. We've been in the 3-4 for so long. You feel like you kind of get a good grasp of it. And then you try to speak in sweeping terms about this new defense. It's like, I don't actually know. We know that you really want guys that can penetrate. Well, is that always true of that one tech as well? Or do you have a guy that isn't doing that? Or, do you try to rotate? I'm guessing just like anything else, you don't want to have a guy that's not multiple so that, if he's out there and they start running hurry up, he's stuck out there kind of thing, So I don't know. I'm not sure. I do know that some of the 4-3s have a nose tackle role. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm not entirely sure. And even if I did know, there's a lot of variation. We'll have to see what his style of running that is.
Drew says the Vikings used to use a nose tackle and a D tackle as their two inside guys. And we're kind of expecting that, like, Kenny and Wyatt are going to kind of be your every down defensive tackles, right? It's kind of
sure. Yeah, and like with OTAs, I know it was Kenny and Slayton, so I don't know if it's going to be, that's going to be one of the situations. And then, so for example, 3rd and 4, maybe you want Kenny and Slayton out there, and maybe 3rd and 10, you're looking for Wyatt and Kenny out there to get a little bit more pass rush, kind of those types of things. I don't really know, but we'll see.
Drew says, I wonder if we get a late round pick for whoever loses the kicker battle. I think that, like, at most, if you could roster like Greg Joseph until the middle of the season and then somebody else loses their prize kicker to injury, maybe you get a 2027 pick swap.
How funny would that be to actually carry a second kicker just so you can trade him?
Do you think we get a plug nickel for any of our specialists?
Get a what?
Just like, did it have any value at all? Like who cares about?
I can't imagine. I mean, I would think it's worth it, but I'm just trying to think, has that ever happened?
We
what did we trade
for like 1.2 mil or something?
What did we give the? Yeah, do you remember what we gave the Rams for? Was it a punter?
Yeah, Corey Bojorquez. That was a 6th rounder.
Was it?
Yeah, that was a 6th.
And I don't think we're carrying anybody that has the hype of Bojorquez, because he was like he was a big deal at that time. So I wouldn't think there's a whole lot of value. But like I said, if you get to the middle of the season, teams would definitely be desperate enough if they're, if you're like a playoff team that has a crap kicker, you'd give up some pretty decent value to rectify that.
Too old for this. We could probably finesse the Bears' 1st round pick for our punter.
Jeez, the Bears are so ridiculous.
So Drew mentions the tight end room, and that reminded me of a question that came to mind for me earlier this week. Because the Packers basically, rain or shine, always keep 4 tight ends on their roster. That's tight ends plus, fullbacks or H-backs. And we have 5 guys who I think you would expect to make the roster. So obviously Musgrave and Kraft are not going anywhere. And then they really, really seem to like Ben Sims a lot. I can't imagine Ben Sims is going anywhere.
Sure.
So then who does that 4th tight end spot go to? Because they seemed to like Henry Pearson. They gave him a decent amount of playing time last year. But also you got Tyler Davis coming back from injury, and he was an enormous special teams contributor the last time that he, had an ACL.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine that they keep 5 just so they can keep, Davis and Sims and Henry Pearson. But I think they'll also be bummed to let one of those guys go.
I struggle to see them let go of Tyler Davis because they seem to really like the guy. But it could be one of those things, too, where they liked him, but he's been here long enough now where it's like, all right, enough is enough. We've seen what we're going to get out of him. I don't know how attached they are to Pearson necessarily.
The thing with Davis is, like, they were crazy high on him and loved him to death. And then he, tore his ACL.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really be mad about that. And I just don't know that he's had an opportunity to even show them anything since then, other than like, hey, eating my veggies and doing rehab.
Right. I mean, that would be my thought, is it's Musgrave, Kraft, Davis, and Sims would be my guess.
That's how I would stack it too. But there's a couple different positions on offense where you look at it and there's a guy who's probably pretty clearly the odd man out, who you kind of hate to see go. So running back would be another option of you got Jacobs and Marshawn and then AJ Dillon. And like they usually don't even keep 3 running backs, let alone let alone 4. So, for all the love that Emmanuel Wilson got last year, and as excited as everybody is about that, I mean, he's probably, just hoping to make the practice squad at this point.
Right. Yeah, I thought about that as well. I mean, you'd love to get Wilson on the field, but whose spot does he take? I mean, could we cut? I mean, we could technically cut Dillon, I guess, or try to trade Dillon if we thought that there was any value there. But outside of that, I can't think of a scenario really where we're going to see him at all this year, if he's even going to be wearing a Packers roster or jersey.
Right. And we have 3 drafted quarterbacks, and I can't imagine they roster all 3. So you're going to have one quarterback that they drafted within the last 2 years on the practice squad here. They're getting cut and re-signed to the practice squad. Just kind of stinks. You don't like to see that. And it's a situation where, like, we've had so many draft picks over the last few years that there's just not room for all of them anymore. So, guys, and it's a nice problem to have. Like, Goody has been stacking all these draft picks every year.
Mm-hmm.
So normally we're sitting here talking about like, hey, how many undrafted free agents are going to be making the roster, and then you got your just underwhelming dudes from past years, like this defensive tackle that nobody's excited about is roster lock for sure and that kind of stuff. But we have so many of these young guys, I don't think we can even keep them all. Clearly we can't. So it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, and it gives them that flexibility, like I said, where maybe you like a guy like Tyler Davis, but there's so much turnover. It's been so many years now. You have the comfortability to say, you know what, I think we've seen enough from him, and you can let guys like that go. Not saying that that's going to be one of those names, but as opposed to having to cling on to every piece of maybe, you can start really shuffling through and just keeping the best of the best and moving on from the rest of these guys. Especially you look at like wide receiver. Guys like Samori Toure are the types of guys that would cling on to this team for like 4 years, just because we need a guy and he's got some experience. I'm not saying he's going anywhere, but there would be no real heartburn whatsoever when you look at Bo Melton, Malik Heath, Grant DeBose. I mean, just between those 3 guys, why keep Samori Toure at all? So, yeah, I mean,
right.
Everybody does worry about, well, you draft so many guys, there's only so many spots. Yeah, but only so many are going to pan out. And this way, keep that turnover going and just keep the best and drop the rest. Let everybody else have the scraps.
Yeah, wide receiver is another interesting one. And if you're trying to figure out who would make, kind of be that odd guy out, obviously you got your top 4 are set in stone. I know there's some Romeo Dobbs doubt, but nobody thinks he's getting traded or cut or anything for sure.
Right.
But after the big 4, I think the next guy that immediately jumps to mind is, hey, Bo Melton was our highest graded receiver last year. Now it's like a 5-game sample size. And you could say, hey, he kind of disappeared in the playoffs. Well, sure, his grades dropped off in the playoffs, but he did have a touchdown versus the 49ers. Like, he wasn't not involved.
Yeah.
I kind of have to imagine that he is currently penciled in as the 5th wide receiver for the coaching staff. And at that point, their average over the last like 15 years, I think, is 5.5 wide receivers. And you look at the years where they keep the most wide receivers, it's years where there's just a ton of uncertainty. You look at years like I think 2018, we had like 8 wide receivers on the roster, and it was Devontae Adams and a bunch of riffraff. Basically, I think that was the year. And it was just clearly they just didn't know who they could trust at all, and so they just kind of stuck everybody on the roster and said, let's just hope that the cream rises to the top. I think this might be the year where you look at it and say, maybe 5 is enough. Like, love Malik Heath, love, what we saw out of undrafted free agent Julian Hicks, but, sorry, we want to be able to keep an extra tight end, or we're still really uncertain about this offensive line. Let's keep some more of these guys so we have more options. And we feel like these top 5 wide receivers are so interchangeable in terms of skill level. Why would we need a 6th?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. If you want to put extras somewhere, I understand that there's names that we like that you want to keep, and the Packers do say that they'll do that. You want to keep the best 53 or whatever, but there's got to be some strategery involved here. And Samori Toure, is never going to, or Grant DeBose or whatever. I don't mean to keep picking on Samori Toure, but he's never. I know he's never going to compete with these guys. Whereas offensive line, like you said, a lot of question marks there. You could look at even edge, right? We got the big 3, and then, would it be nice to have maybe Brenton Cox mixed in just in case, or, linebacker, carry a couple extra guys just because we need to, whatever. But you can make a case for a lot of positions. Wide receiver, I would really struggle to understand why we would need guys behind Watson and Dobbs and Reed and Wicks and Melton. I just, what more do you need there?
And to back up what you said, like, that is not a shot at Malik Heath. We really liked what Malik Heath did for us last year, and the Packers loved his special teams contributions, but that's what wide receiver 6 is for sure this year. Wide receiver 6 is somebody who's going to be a goon on special teams.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a Grant DuBose or somebody just knocks it out of the park this summer in terms of run blocking, and also impresses the heck out of Rich Bisaccia, and you got Rich Bisaccia pounding the table to get him a roster spot, and then Matt LaFleur's like, yeah, it would be nice to have him, to throw him in there on a run play or whatever. But I mean, it's a long shot to be on the roster as wide receiver 6 this year.
Right.
So, Rich Bisaccia truly is your best friend if you're trying to be one of these. Shush your mouth, Dakota. We don't need it.
Magoon. There you go. He just sold me on it.
Could you imagine if Magoon made the made the 53 and then Bo Melton didn't?
Oh, it'd be painful. But that's an automatic T-shirt right there. Magoon Squad.
Yeah. I think it was 2020. We were all expecting Jake Kumerow to make it, and then I think it was Darius Slayton or whatever his name was who made it. What was the guy's name? Darius somebody. Guy who almost lost us that Lions game in 2019 where they benched him and put in Al Nazar for the first time, and he caught 2 touchdowns, and then they cut Darius, whatever his name was, the very next day. Anyways, that guy.
Don't recall other than the sadness of losing Kumerow.
Darius Shepard. Thank you, Tyler.
Shepard. Nice one.
That guy was not fun to watch play.
Yeah. But, I mean, that is a good example of the types of guys we had cycling through to try to support Devontae Adams, which was a very different situation than what we're in now. Yeah, guys like Darius Shepard or Geronimo Allison or whatever. Like, it was a constant revolt. Same with tight end. We'd always have the one kind of tight end, and then 2 or 3 just geez, I don't know what purpose you serve kind of a deal. It's not that anymore.
Too old for this says Ben Sims in his one season has impressed me more than Davis ever did. So the thing is, Ben Sims definitely has a role on offense, or he did anyways last year when they had all the injuries to the tight end position. And Tyler Davis was on the roster because of his special teams play. And it did kind of get me interested in just pulling up the special teams grades last year for the Packers and seeing who on here would not have a roster spot this year for what they do on offense or defense. And just purely, hey, special teams is why you're here. And I think the first name that would come up here for me, because your top 4 guys are Colby Wooden, Tucker Kraft, Carl Brooks, and Josh Nyman. But the 5th guy would be Eric Wilson. I think bringing him back this offseason was something that made all of us happy because we know he's a special teams freak. The next 2 guys are Christian Welch and Robert Rochelle. Christian Welch had a 75 PFF grade on special teams. Robert Rochelle had a 70.1. I mean, I probably would harbor a guess that both of those guys would be favored to make the 53 as an extra linebacker or cornerback who just plays special teams over a Samori Toure or Malik Heath. Samori Toure doesn't even play special teams. He's played like 4 career special team snaps,
which is another rough
Malik Heath.
Yeah, rough selling point for him as well is that he doesn't really contribute there.
Malik Heath had the 43rd highest special teams grade for us last year. He played in 11 games on special teams, had 71 snaps, which would be 29th most. And his grade was in the 40s. I think it was like a 43. I lost it here, but no, 55. He was a 55. But I mean, compared to some recent years where you maybe had like a guy or 2 guys who were over a 60 on special teams, and then everybody else was in the mid 50s, we have 27 guys who are 61.6 or higher, and we have 7 guys in the 70s, 15 guys who are 65 or higher. So it's a much more capable special teams group than what we had, say, 2-3 years ago.
Right, exactly.
So I just don't see Malik Heath's 55.7 and his 71 snaps on special teams being what earns him a roster spot, and which makes me sad because I'm kind of a Malik Heath hype man when he's in the game. But as far as like trying to make a case for him being on the roster, that's a hard case to make.
Yeah, and again, it's a common tradition for us to kind of latch on to those wide receivers, but I don't think any of those guys are going to make it. Plus, we've got some pretty solid like linebackers and whatnot on special teams, so even that is going to be tough to compete with.
Is Dallin Levitt still on the roster? No, he's not on the roster right now. Tyler, I didn't realize how old Dallin Levitt is. He's like 31 or something.
Forgot about that.
I think of him as a young guy, but he's been in the league a long time at this point.
Yeah.
Do you think that Sean Clifford or Michael Pratt would get poached if we tried to put him on the practice squad?
I was contemplating that when you said it. I don't think so, especially since Pratt ended up falling to the 7th round. It's definitely something that would be scary. But I would lean toward no. It's kind of crazy because the Packers are going to have to do it, but it feels like a high risk proposition for a quarterback you just drafted and are trying to develop to just leave him out there to be poached.
This is a little bit easier to put Tim Boyle on the practice squad,
Yeah, right?
than a 5th round draft pick in Sean Clifford and a 7th rounder who I guess apparently the NFL hates. I don't understand why he fell to the back of the 7th round.
I guess I'm glad, because if he was actually a 2nd rounder, like I kind of thought he was, not that we'd end up having him, but let's assume he was, we'd have to put him out there and then put Clifford on the practice squad. We'd have no choice. So with the NFL not liking him, maybe he's safe now.
It's a tough scene because you also don't want to you don't really want the visual of, oh yeah, we drafted Sean Clifford in the 5th round a year ago,
right?
And now we're cutting him for a 7th round quarterback, and it's like,
right.
And he didn't do anything wrong. Like, he was not any worse than anybody in the world expected he would be.
Yeah,
it was just kind of like we didn't have any other option last year except to draft him in the 5th round to make sure we got him because everybody else was gone, and we needed a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Man, that's tough though. Who would you rather keep between the two of them? If you got to stash one on the practice squad, who are you holding on to?
I mean, for me personally, I'd rather have Pratt because I like Pratt. I liked him going into this whole process. Clifford, I mean, I barely knew about Clifford because he wasn't. Everybody was kind of shocked how early we took him and how late Pratt went. But if I took an educated guess, I would guess Pratt is going to end up on the practice squad. But I'm very excited to see Pratt play, and I would have no issue making a bold prediction that he's going to perform well, and I'll say better than Clifford will. Although I do like, I mean, Clifford grew on me when I watched him and I saw that sort of Brett Favre style that he has. He is a fun guy to watch, but I just feel like Pratt is more of a little bit more of a technician. You know, he just plays a little bit more efficiently, and I just think he would be a more trustworthy guy to have on the field.
This could be a really fun, low stakes preseason for us.
Right.
To just get to watch Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt battling for QB2 every week. I mean, I think that's going to be the storyline. this preseason is the QB2 job.
And how cool is it? Because usually you don't care. I mean, some people do because they like Boyle or whatever nonsense. I never got into that. But now we got Jordan Love whenever he decides to play, the little bit that he does. And when he's not out there, it's Clifford. And when he's not out there, it's Pratt. I mean, that's freaking awesome.
I mean, I think this is kind of the situation that you want to have is like you've got a draft pick that we've been developing for a little bit and a new draft pick, and you need a guy who you feel can win you a game or two if you're missing your starter for a short amount of time. Like you need that. That can derail a potential Super Bowl winning season if it's like, listen, we're going to be without Jordan Love for the next 3 weeks as he recovers from you name it.
Need your Matt Flynn.
You know, our playoff seeding or getting into the playoffs hinges on, you know, winning 2 out of 3 games here in the stretch. You know, what can QB2, whoever he is, accomplish? And it's fun because I think you don't have the drama of like there were people actively rooting for Tim Boyle or whoever to beat out Jordan Love.
Right.
The backup QB job. Like that just wasn't fun. You know, nobody wanted that kind of drama. And this time it's like you just want the best guy to win and you want to be excited about whoever gets it. So best case scenario, they're both slinging it like crazy. And you feel great about both options, and then we trade one. That would be fantastic.
That would, I mean, that would, as much as it feels like that's not the right thing. I mean, that absolutely is the best case scenario, and that's one of the benefits of drafting quarterbacks is the ability to not only have a backup but to flip them for compensation. So yeah, that would be the best case scenario.
Yeah, and what if these guys both ball out? You know, I'm looking at Sean Clifford last year. In the preseason, he had a 77.5 grade, a 74.6 passing grade. I mean, he was totally respectable. I'm pulling up. Okay, QB preseason only. I mean, you had it's tough because you got some starters mixed in here too. But like a guy like John Wolford or Aiden O'Connell, high-level backups who had similar-ish grades. You know, and maybe you could flip Clifford for a 5th or a 4th, you know, and you at least recoup what you spent on him, maybe improve on that since you developed him for a year. You know, I think that would be exciting to all of us. And for Clifford, like you'd be rooting for his success too. Yeah,
definitely. And you know, these guys are probably not going to go on to be superstar starters, but if you can flip them for, you know, backups with starter potential, then you don't have to worry about, you can still root for him without saying, man, I hope this guy doesn't end up ruining our lives someday in the Super Bowl.
Right.
It's kind of like rooting for Justin Fields right now. I want him to be successful because I have no fear of him carrying the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Super Bowl. I just want him to be successful enough to laugh at the Bears.
I also want them to play him at kick returner, like what's his nuts was suggesting. Was that Najee? I think somebody was talking about.
Yeah, that's right.
They were trying him out at at kick returner. And it's just like, I remember when the Bears finally moved on from Trubisky, and he went and he was like QB3 for the Bills.
Yeah.
And we were just dying laughing because it's like the Bears were using this guy as a starting quarterback.
Yep.
And nobody else in the league even values him as a QB2.
And they did it again. Justin Fields is he got sold for pennies, and he's fighting to be Russell Wilson's backup, which is pathetic in and of itself. Russell Wilson's been terrible.
He's been terrible since I think 2021 was his last like competent year.
It's been a while.
Tyler wants to know whose preseason hot seat will be hotter, Carlson or Ryan. I don't know, because in order for you to have a hot seat, I think they have to have like an option to replace you with.
That was my thought. It would have to be Carlson because Ryan's not going anywhere. I mean, he can't. We would have negative starters at that point if we got rid of. We might have negative starters with Ryan, to be honest.
I mean, I think that you have to assume right now. I mean, you have to put a gun to my head to make me assume this, but that's kind of where we're at. That Ryan is like the presumptive starter just because there's literally nobody else. It's like him and Royce Newman.
Right.
We just don't have a right guard. I don't think I put together a single like offensive line projection where I didn't just have a question mark at right guard. I don't even have an option.
Yeah. And even if you took Jordan Morgan and told me he was going to be the right guard, I still don't think I would remove Sean Ryan because we have no depth behind him. I mean, you can't say Royce. And plus, they're not going to get rid of Sean Ryan before his contract, so he's going to be a backup at least until he runs out of his contract, and then they're going to get rid of him. So he's not going anywhere.
On that note, a lot of people are mad. A lot of people on Twitter are mad.
That's
that
weird.
Royce Newman has not been cut. He's still on his rookie deal. Like,
people hate him more than anything else in the world, man. They've been begging for him to get cut forever.
I don't understand. I just don't understand.
I mean, it doesn't benefit us to cut him. Like, we don't get better unless you have an option to replace him. But I'd rather have him than have nothing there.
So the angriest I've seen people be about Royce Newman was when we cut Aaron Jones. And people were like, look at how much we're paying Royce. If you cut Royce, then you could afford Aaron Jones. It's like, but we don't have any right guards. We need somebody who can be our backup right guard because we don't even really have a starter at right guard.
And that's not the point anyways. It's not that we were short of money. It was that this is how much we're willing to pay you. And he said no. And we said, okay, bye. It's not like, oh, shoot, we're short $1 million. I don't know what to do. Oh, man, we could have cut Royce. That's not the case. We have like $19 million sitting there for us to spend. Second of all, if you cut Royce, that just leaves another spot, and that spot has to be filled by somebody who you have to pay. So whoever is thinking that, bro, you need to take 5 seconds to think things through before you just post nonsense on social media.
I feel like about every 3 weeks, I'll see a post go around on Twitter where it's like, oh, I just remembered that the Packers still haven't cut Royce Newman yet, and it'll get like 400 likes. As you know, the replies are like people like bawling their eyes out, you know, posting like crying gifs. Like,
people hate that guy so much; it's kind of funny. I mean, there's a lot of people on this team that have been pretty bad. You could say Royce, but there's plenty of others that would be in that same category. Some of them, by the way, are beloved by Packer fans, which I don't understand.
We have I'm looking, I just went looked at defense and sorted it by worst to best last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it just made me sad, so I'm not going to read that out loud.
Okay, that's fine.
Let me check offense. I'm hoping Samori Toure is low. Pretty low. So yeah. Royce Newman was the fifth. Now, he only played 126 snaps last year. He was the fifth lowest graded Packer last year, but it was actually not a bad grade. I'm kind of shocked there weren't more terrible players behind him. So he had a 52.4 overall, 73.5 pass blocking grade.
There you go.
Why do we want this guy's head again? And a 54.1 run blocking
grade. Because he started like 2 years ago and was bad in like 2 games. He was like a revolving door, and that's all anybody can remember.
Actually, I see why people hate him. So he played 126 snaps, and he had 4 penalties.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
That might be. Let me see, who had the most penalties last year? It's probably Jordan Love. No, it was Royce.
I mean, it was painful when he started. It definitely was. I mean, it was brutal, but it's just fans' memories, man. If you put people through that amount of pain, it could be one game. They're never going to forgive you for that. And that's where Royce is right now.
His first preseason with the Packers, he had a 91.8 grade, a 90.5 pass blocking, or a 90.5 run blocking grade.
Yeah, he was out of control.
Like, if you look at his career, no doubt he's been bad. I mean, he's not good, but he's far from the worst thing on this roster.
I mean,
and you look around even just the NFC North. I mean, there's plenty of our rivals are starting guys of this caliber.
Right. That's the other thing. We're pretty spoiled with offensive linemen. We don't realize how putrid some offensive lines are, like starters. It's real bad. But I mean, I don't know, but I would almost feel more comfortable with Royce than Sean Ryan. And we'll see if he continued to grow, because Sean Ryan, last year had some really good games, obviously like every other one in between the horrible games, but I don't know. It's a close race for me.
I mean, they're absolutely on the same tier for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really want them starting, but if they were the starter, I don't think that means we're losing, any more games than we would otherwise.
Right.
Tool for this, it's nice to have so much potential at backup with Love at the one spot where the Bears and Vikings have more uncertainty in their starting quarterbacks.
Hopefully it stays that way.
The Vikings quarterback situation is bleak right now.
I would hate to. I'm not rooting for the Vikings. I'm just saying it would be funny if McCarthy was a little bit better than Caleb. That's all I'm saying. That would make me chuckle a little bit.
Well, it's not far-fetched either, because the Vikings usually have a relatively decent passing game.
Sure.
And the Bears usually rank like 33rd in passing every year.
Right.
It's like
they went out and got Caleb, and they're just going to run the ball all the time.
The Bears starting quarterback usually he's like 33rd in passing yards in the league. So it's not that far-fetched, Jacksonville is going to lose their starter in like week 8, and Caleb's never going to catch up to Trevor by the end of the year, and then if Mac Jones, I think, is Trevor's backup. Mac Jones is going to surpass Caleb by the end of the year. Like that's the, and that's not like an anti-Caleb thing. That's just how it usually goes for the Bears.
It is going to be funny to see if they're going to try to be an air it out team. Like, are you actually you're going to give them the ball? You're going to be that team now? I don't know. It's going to be kind of funny seeing them try to actually be a competent modern day NFL team that tries to drop back and throw the ball a lot. We'll see how that pans out.
I think, like, other than the doubts that we have about Caleb Williams, the only excuse they have for not having a good offense would be like coaching, and like their offensive coordinator, we don't really believe in. But like, if you put these players on any other team in the league, you would expect that team to be able to put together a good offense. Like, you've got 3 wide receivers you feel good about, 2 tight ends who are at least decent, a not bad at all offensive line. Like, it should be a good offense.
It's exactly why I hope it doesn't work out. I mean, aside from obviously they're a rival, it's just the comedy of it. The fact that it's like, it doesn't matter what you do. It just doesn't matter. You will never be good, and I cannot stop freaking laughing at you idiots.
Bears will still try and tell you Tyson Bagent would be a thing. Maybe.
They They have belief like no fan base I've ever seen before. Maybe
I know,
Cowboys fans. I don't know.
I was talking to a Cowboys fan just yesterday, and he was telling me that he thinks that the Cowboys are going to be like the team with the biggest decline this year in terms of wins.
Yeah,
because he was like, they are super stressed about the fact like their offense has actually not been what anybody thinks it is over the last few years. That like the national media has this perception of Dallas as a solid offense, and he's like, listen, we Cowboys fans know that so much of the offensive success is like being put in a good position by the defense and interceptions and that kind of stuff, and like they are stressed to the max about Dan Quinn leaving Dallas.
Oh yeah.
So it'll be interesting. And it was the Cowboys off season was very un-Cowboys like this year.
Sure.
They no trades, no acquisitions, just kind of quietly built through the draft, and like that's it. And that's the kind of off season that I want my team to usually have. Like I like that kind of off season, frankly. But it was so out of left field for how the Cowboys and Jerry Jones always do business. And I wonder if Jerry Jones does view it as like kind of a reloading year. Could be interesting.
Yeah, the only thing that would keep me from believing that is I've had a theory for the last 2, 3, 4 years on Jerry Jones that he knows his time on this earth is not long, and he's desperate to win a Super Bowl as soon as possible. So he's been like all in for the last 4 years now. And it just feels like that's the way they've been operating. But yeah, it could be. Maybe they do need a little mini tear down rebuild kind of deal.
Bringing it back to Justin Fields for a second, because that was fun.
Let's do it.
I loved throwing it in Bears fans' faces like every offseason for 2 off seasons, because they would talk about like, we're finally getting our 4,000 yard passer this year. And I'm like, dude, talk to me when he cracks 3,000.
Right.
And he never sniffed 3,000. His last year there was his most passing yards, 2,562 passing yards.
I cannot believe that. I mean, Jordan really struggled the first half of the year. I mean, we all thought he was. I shouldn't say we all thought. That's not true. I got a lot of hate on Packernet After Dark for saying it, but I didn't think he was going to be our quarterback by about midseason. I mean, by midseason, I thought next year he wouldn't be our quarterback. But
hey, I was always a believer. Just for the record,
fair enough.
Chad,
fair enough. It was it was me by myself. But the fact that he struggled that long, didn't come back, didn't kind of wake up until week 9, and just sailed past the record that the Bears have never been able to crack, is the most absurd thing in the world. Like, it's the easy, like, this is so easy for the Packers to just be like, oops, I was sleeping for half a season, still sailed past any passing yards that any Bears quarterback has ever thrown for in the history of ever. It just blows my mind.
I actually just put this together just the other day. It was where the Bears' all-time passing leader would rank among Packers seasons. Here we go.
Sure.
I'm just going to share my screen so everybody can enjoy this.
This is so good.
Here we go. All right. Most passing yards in a season by a Packers QB. So Aaron Rodgers dominates the list, as expected. Fantastic passer in an era of a lot of passing. Got Aaron Rodgers, Lynn Dickey, a bunch of Rodgers, Favre, Rodgers, Mikowski. All right, Jordan Love here with 4,159 yards. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That'd be the 12th best season in Packers history by passing yards. Fantastic. I'm going down. This is all the 4,000 yards. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 18 4,000 yard passing seasons. We're going to go down here. Eric Kramer at 3,838 yards in 1995 would be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Plus, what did I say? 18?
18, I
So
think.
it's like 25th.
Yeah.
The 25th best passing season. He also that year set the passing touchdowns record for Chicago with 29, which would be 19th most in Packers history.
Dang.
And by the way, so that was 1995. That year, where's the Favre season? Where's the Brett Favre season? 1995 is on here. Here we go. Favre's best year was 1995 with 4,400 yards. So he almost had 1,000 yards more than Eric Kramer that year, when I'm sure Bears fans were losing their minds that year about how many passing yards they had. And Favre basically laps him by 1,000.
We just can't let them have anything nice ever. Just can't let them live, man.
Screw you, Chicago. Too old for this. Even if Caleb did have the best situation any QB has ever been drafted into, like many Bears fans say, parentheses, they are delusional, they are still the Bears and therefore not the best situation any quarterback has had. That's great.
Yep.
It's like, is this the best situation ever? No, because it's the Bears. You're freaking a huge negative of it's the Bears.
Take that exact team, put it on any other 31 teams, and the answer would be yes.
Chicago, where quarterbacks go to die.
Prove me wrong.
Well, what do you say we call it here? I feel bad because we have such a high number of viewers right now. But
Yeah.
It's a holiday.
People
we
are
should go
digging
hang
it.
out with our families. We were, as we were getting started, your daughter came in and said that there was like a tornado that was going to come bear down on the house. So maybe you should check and make sure that your
Check
kids are
on
all
that,
still on the ground.
By the way, I forgot to do it. I was going to transition, then I thought it was weird. Ticket King. Make sure you, if you're planning on buying some tickets, check out Ticket King. It's a good time to buy your Packers tickets before they all get sold out. Get your Colts tickets, or if you want to check out a Bears game, Vikings game, whatever, you can laugh at Caleb Williams. That'd be kind of funny. Check out Ticket King. They're a Wisconsin-based company. Lowest ticket prices in town with offices in Green Bay and Milwaukee.
Heck yeah. I live a little bit far away, but I'm going to try and make it to Green Bay this year. I think the Texans game is the game I'm going to go to. So
Nice.
any
That'd be a good one.
y'all are interested in meeting up, I think that'd be a fun game. We get young ascending crazy good Texans, young ascending crazy good Packers. See Jordan Love and CJ Stroud air it out and battle each other. I think that'd be a good one. So yeah, Ticket King, that's the way to do it.
Yes, sir.
Too old for this. Like the stream, everyone. Yes, like the stream and subscribe if you are not already subscribed.
Very
Thank you,
helpful.
everybody, for tuning in. This was a good time. Ryan, thanks for joining, especially on kind of short notice. I appreciate you getting in here. And here we go. I took too long getting our picture up.
Let's do
but
this.
I got it. All right. Folks, love you so much. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here next week. And until next time, in the words of the late, great Mr. Ed Policy, go Pack Go.